Town, like any other village in Animal Crossing, would be nothing without its residents. To illustrate this, let's try a thought experiment. Take a moment to imagine London, or any big city. Usually there's hustle, there's bustle, maybe a pair of dudes having a tussle. Now imagine that all these people have simply vanished. What would that be like? Very quiet. Or Ramsay Street, from the Australian television soap opera Neighbours. What would Neighbours be like without any characters living in those houses? Pretty bloody boring. Or what about the play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child? What would that be like without any people in it? I don't actually know, as I haven't seen it. Now imagine the video game Animal Crossing, but without any animals in it. There. See what I mean? Absolute shit. I'm your mayor, David Thayer, and in this episode of Town, a podcast about Animal Crossing, I'll be talking to my guest mayors about the characters and villages they love, and sometimes hate. But first, the headlines. Coming up on Town this hour, who's that fox down by the station?
When Wolfgang was living in my town, he said that he'd spotted Crazy Red down the train station or something. He's like, oh yeah, this Crazy Red guy sold me a painting, do you want to buy it?
Furious Mole has had it up to here with your shenanigans.
And there he was, yelling at me and kind of making implications that I might have been up to no good, which I completely understood because at the time some ne'er-do-wells I was hanging around with would exploit the system.
And Mayor of Town is confronted with serious allegations of infidelity.
You were awesome. You're going to have so many fans once I spread the word. Wow. What's she going to spread the word about, David?
How a great conversationalist I am.
But now, it's back to the stories wherever you are. When you play Animal Crossing, much like in real life, each player's village is populated by a random bunch of villagers. This helps to make each copy of the game feel unique. But while villagers are allocated to your village by a mysterious algorithm and come and go pretty much as they please, the standard set of characters who run the shops and services are the same in every game. These include the charming characters who you meet early on. Rover, the friendly cat who greets you on your first day but you don't see much of again. KK Slider, the singer-songwriter. Business raccoon and moneylender Tom Nook. And, since New Leaf, Isabelle. Here are guest mayors Charlie and Ho talking about New Leaf's irrepressible town hall secretary.
Really love Isabelle, and I think she puts up with an awful lot from a lot of different people, and she's just like a nice, prevailing, consistent, lovely lady.
Do you ever wonder why she isn't mayor?
I wish there was an option to make her mayor. I would really like that. If you could just go, I'll help, but this should be yours. Sometimes I feel like Isabelle is a person who is just, you know, the kind of person who's like, I'm just happy to help, but it doesn't matter. I don't need that. And it's like, it's not about whether you need it. Do you want it, Isabelle? Because if you want it, you can have it.
And she could do a good job.
She'd do a better job than I would. I think, yeah, very selfless, but to the point that I hope she's still living all her dreams.
I think one of the best things about her is her name and appearance. Because that was one of those, my mind is blown type things when I first found that out. And I always wonder how it works in Japan as well. Well, because her name being Isabelle with a bell-shaped head, do they do the same joke in Japan?
Is her head bell-shaped? Is it?
Looks like a bag of bells. See, that's the reaction I had when I found out, but I thought it was common knowledge now.
No, I did not know. I just thought that's really interesting. I really want to know if it works both ways. Oh, I'm totally going to look at her loads later. That's crazy. I'm really glad you told me that. Oh, I really like that.
I don't know what came first.
The name or the head?
Because presumably, no, it must have been the character appearance came first, and then they thought that would be a good name for the Western version.
But do you think they just went, oh my God, we've subconsciously drawn a big bag of bells, or let's take that big bag of bells and put some legs on it?
Or have I completely, again, misconstrued a rumour and it's not really true?
Yeah.
And it's true enough.
It's so perfect.
It just seems too coincidental not to be.
I want to believe. I really do.
Isabelle just seems like a bit of a busybody. Apparently she's been taking my seat in the town hall when I've been away.
Well, someone's got to do it.
Yeah, but she can't take my office.
If you're going to be away for long stretches of time, someone's got to keep on keeping things ticking over.
Well, I just think she's a bit presumptuous, bit precocious. Not really into that.
Well, you better check in and make sure she hasn't taken your job.
Yeah. Well, I don't see her contributing bells to the public funds.
No.
I don't really see anyone do that.
No.
It goes up by like handfuls of bells each time. Takes too long. Like, why am I the only one busting my gut, having my chops bust by all these other villagers who aren't chipping in for these public funds?
Maybe they're not as wealthy as you.
Well, maybe they should work harder.
Much to my relief, I can confirm that I didn't invent the meaning behind Isabelle's name. Her name has actually been localised in lots of clever ways, which I won't go into here, but you can read about them on the internet. Check out her page on the Animal Crossing Wikia. Now, let's move on to hear Timothy, Martin and Charlie talking about KK Slider, Animal Crossing's resident singer, songwriter, and some might say regrettably, DJ.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can I ask the listeners at home a question as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
KK Slider, number one, what does the KK stand for? Number two, hot question mark? I mean...
Well, I can answer the first question.
Yeah.
So KK Slider, I'm going to have to Google it though at the same time, I know is basically a representation of the person who writes the songs for Animal Crossing, which are all brilliant. And I think that the name is related to his name in real life.
Kevin Kline.
I love that connection to Toccata and how there's kind of this character that exists between worlds. Also because in the original he the one that greets you to the game immediately in the Black Room, which I guess is kind of Animal Crossing version of the Black Lodge. It feels like Isabelle has been pushed into that spotlight now, and she appears in the Black Room.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's something to be said about that Black Room defining who the defining Animal Crossing character of that generation is. For me, KK Slider kind of is Animal Crossing. If you ask me, Martin, who do you think is the poster boy or girl for Animal Crossing? I would say KK, not Tom Nook. 7:00 original Animal Crossing Saturday night concert was like the highlight of my week in Animal Crossing. Like I'd look forward to it. I'd love to hear the music. Now I love to see the sleeve art. And for me, one of the big reasons to look forward to a potential Switch Animal Crossing is HD version of the sleeve art.
Don't you think though it's going to end up not being HD, even though it's going to be on the...
Because there's a high chance, isn't there? There's a high chance because the game does kind of like revel in its kind of low poly look.
I do go to his gigs. At the beginning, I went quite religiously, but it did feel more just like yeah, give me the thing. Give me the record, shut up. It's like a nice old soul. I sometimes wish that KK was a bit more present in other places rather than being just sequestered into a little cellar.
Sometimes you can bump into him at the Brewster's Cafe.
Yeah.
Having a chill.
But it would be nice just to be like, I'm not on till 6, I'm just going for a walk. Or, live a little.
I should point out that Kazumi Totaka didn't compose all the music in all the Animal Crossing games. But you knew that, right? Some of Animal Crossing's characters, like KK and Harvey over at the campground, seem to be quite, how do I put this? Bohemian, at least in style if not in substance. Others are in the business of business. This difference is perhaps clearest when you compare and contrast the Otter characters, as Christenna, Ho and Martin are going to do right now.
I really like, is it Pascal? So when you get the diving suit and you can dive in your village and find underwater creatures and cool like shells and stuff, I think if you get a scallop shell, he pops up and he's like this cool surfer otter thing, and he talks in really spaced out, I'm gonna drop some deep truths on you, man, give me a scallop. And then he gives you kind of cool stuff from pirate ships, trades scallop shells for like cool furniture items, and you can get like compasses and a Jolly Roger flag, or kind of seafaring stuff. But he always says weird stuff, like he'll put a weird spin on a regular thing. I don't know, ask you about belly buttons or something, and I don't know, he's just really cool.
I recently discovered that Pascal the sea otter doesn't trust Lyle the river otter. So there must be some sort of otter
Feud.
feud, yeah. And he thinks that Lyle is untrustworthy, and he's pretty gentle usually, Pascal, as an otter, because he's, you know, this kind of like sea hippie.
Yeah, literally laid back.
Literally laid back as he floats down the river, in the river towards the sea. If you talk to him sometimes, he complains about these river otters being untrustworthy. But if you think about Lyle, who goes from being an insurance salesman to then running happy homes, he has his sister, Lottie the otter, the pink one. She's entirely trustworthy looking. She's so cute and pink and just wants to please and help people.
It's all part of the front, though. Maybe he's moved from scam to scam.
Oh my God, what, bringing his sister along for that kind of veneer of credibility? Oh, no, Lottie's good at heart.
Too pure.
Too pure, yeah. Whereas Lyle, I feel like he's had a hard life. I just like his straight talking ways. A bit put upon. He always thinks that people are busting his chops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think he's great, but there's something dodgy going on with that kind of otter rivalry. It's pretty interesting. Maybe there's something more to it that we need to find out.
Maybe if you talk to them both enough, you'll find out the history.
No Animal Crossing character makes me laugh like Lyle. He's just somehow creepy and lovable all at once.
Desperate. He's got just a whiff of desperation about him.
Yeah. There's something about him, kind of how like Lottie, you can tell that she doesn't want to really be around her uncle that much, I think. Kind of get that vibe. I feel like he's probably a very principled man who just is a bit weird, so people stay away.
Beagle-eared listeners may have noticed that just now, Ho referred to Lottie as Lyle's sister, while Martin called her Lyle's niece. So what is Lottie's true relationship to Lyle? Let's find out as we play Lottie, sister or niece? Lottie. Sister, niece. Niece or sister, cousin? No. Let's say niece. Congratulations, Martin! Your prize is being factually correct and has been awarded to you retrospectively. Well, speaking of principles, there's one character in Animal Crossing that has a very strong sense of right or wrong. And even worse, he's watching you at all times. If you've ever turned your console off without saving, hit the reset button because you wanted to undo something, or maybe even messed with the clock for a little bit of time travelling, then you'll have met Mr. Resetti, and he won't be happy about it. He's a mole, he appears from a hole in the ground outside your house, and he appears to players to give them a proper telling off if they failed to save or tried any kind of funny business, as Charlie and Martin found out to their cost.
I've got a question here. Have you ever met Resetti? I know for a fact that you have.
Yeah, I have. You know, you can go into their office. I've also got that. I was hoping that when I went down into their office, we could become friends, or I get a chance to be like, you know, that thing I did, it was a mistake and I'm really sorry.
Right.
Come
you wanted
on.
to try and even things out with them.
Yeah, and they were just not having it. They were like, we're busy, get lost.
Busy monitoring everyone, presumably.
Judging them. I really dislike turning off the game. I try and live by mistakes. I don't like the do-over things. I don't like fiddling with the clock. I think one time I turned it off by mistake. I'm really bad at leaving a DS just like that for days.
Yeah. And then the red light starts flashing and then it's too late.
You just turn it over and you go, I'll do it a bit. Oh, it's dead. And now I'm going to get shouted at. I do really like that in this version, you can choose to not be shouted at for ages. It's a little more forgiving. I know that children didn't like it.
It would really shout at you for a long time as well.
A really long time.
The more that you did it, the longer it got.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I felt long enough the first time. I do really like with Animal Crossing is that sometimes not good things happen and sometimes you are held accountable for the things that you do. That makes the good things seem better and sweeter, because there are bad things too.
There's the potential for loss,
Yeah.
or being shouted at by an angry mole.
Or stung by bees, or
Yeah,
falling
that's
in a
true.
hole.
As a non-guide person, my first encounter with Resetti was completely natural. I turned off the GameCube without remembering to save. Completely an honest mistake. And I turned it back on. And there he was yelling at me and kind of making implications that I might have been up to no good. Which I completely understood, because at the time some ne'er-do-wells I was hanging around with would exploit the system. And so I was like, I'm not that kind of guy, Resetti. Please believe me, but it was really great. It's kind of like the game has some kind of access into your real life. Like, he knows that your system got turned off when it wasn't meant to get turned off. And you're going to get told off for it. It's a lovely way to kind of nudge people into, hey, this game is best enjoyed if you play it correctly. Please don't binge on this game or go crazy. You're meant to enjoy this thing all year round, little by little. I love it. And I've forgotten the name of Resetti's brother.
Don Resetti?
Don Resetti. He's kind of got the Waluigi's about him, you know.
Or at least the Luigi's about him.
At least the Luigi's, but there's something, I think it's because their colour palette is similar to the Wow Brothers. Do we call them Wow Brothers? The Wow Brothers. It's like, he shouldn't exist. Why is he here?
Manning the Resetti Centre 24/7 is a tough job. You can't expect one Resetti to do all that.
I wish they'd made that Star Fox camera game with the Resetti brothers. Yeah.
That is an amazing idea.
Yeah. Turn that into some fan mail to Nintendo.
Poor Don Resetti. The older brother of Mr. Resetti, or to give him his full name, Sonny Resetti, Don Resetti is milder-mannered and, it seems, weary of his younger brother's constant outrage. I love how fully fleshed out the Resettis are. You can even visit their underground surveillance centre if you build it as a public work and the timing's right. If you visit enough times, you can even catch the Resettis in action. So if you're a careful player, you may almost never meet the Resetti brothers. But there is a place where you might run into one of them if they're taking a shift off. The Roost. The Roost is the only coffee shop in town, and it's a place where you can get to know lots of Animal Crossing characters outside of their normal workplace. In New Leaf, the coffee shop is in a building of its own, but in previous games it occupied a space in the museum curated by the elves Blathers and Celeste.
There's layers to Brewster we aren't beginning to understand, and I think that we should look into Brewster from now on more closely.
Well, I have been. I've been reading about his backstory, and there is a backstory, because apparently some Animal Crossing wiki was saying that Brewster, who's another bird, is friends with Blathers because the original Brewster's coffee was in the museum.
Yes.
And so Blathers would talk about Brewster, his friend, moving there from another city, and then in subsequent games, apparently there are references to him moving. Yeah,
Was it acrimonious?
yeah, they're good friends.
And what do you think happened between Blathers, Celeste, and
Brewster.
Brewster? That's right. What do you think happened between them? Why did he break out from the museum and start his own cafe?
I think the law is that
The deep Animal Crossing lore.
not deep. I think it is established that they're friends, and I don't think it continues from game to game. So I think in the previous ones it was that they're friends, and so Brewster set up shop inside the museum, and in this one Brewster follows his friend Blathers into the town,
Oh, right, I see.
sets up a cafe,
But why didn't he set up a cafe in the museum like he did before?
wanted his own premises. Maybe there's problems with the music.
Oh,
Although now the music's in the nightclub, so yeah, I don't know.
Animal Crossing there, one of the few video games that could make the player really consider the live music licensing situation for a museum cafe. While KK Slider might be the main draw of the nightclub, Club LOL, it's still worth checking it out during the day to encounter one of Animal Crossing's most unfortunate characters, Dr. Shrunk. Remember guest Mayor Ed from the last episode? Well, Dr. Shrunk is the only character he had anything to say about.
I remember really liking Dr. Shrunk, the
Stand-up comedian.
stand-up comedian, who you'd learn the different emotions from. Because again, I was going through some sort of David Lynch, Twin Peaks trip at the time, but I think it kind of had a roundhouse vibe.
Right, yeah.
And
Never thought of that.
And he kind of reminded me of Dr. Jacoby a little bit, I think, Dr. Shrunk.
I was just talking about how he's a comedian. It's hinted at several times that he has a wife, and it appears that she treats him badly.
Isn't he a deliberately bad comedian?
Yeah.
As well. Well, see, I think that appealed to me because I think I was sort of getting into Stuart Lee a lot at that time, and I liked in the way that Stuart Lee alienates his audience. You know, I like the way that he seemed ahead of his time, Dr. Shrunk. or maybe perfectly in keeping with his time.
Oh, I don't know. I think he seems a little bit desperate, Dr. Shrunk. Like he wants to please,
Yeah,
but now he's washed up doing comedy during the day. Who does comedy during the day?
that's true.
In a nightclub that hasn't
got,
been set up yet.
He's got time for a... I'm not sure what animal he was either.
Oxolotl is an amphibian that looks like...
Is that what that looks like?
Yeah, it really looks like Dr. Shrunk.
A Mexican, it's also known as a Mexican salamander. So
Or a
it's-
Mexican walking fish. A neotenic salamander, closely related to a tiger salamander. Although it's known as a walking fish, it's not a fish but an amphibian. Well, everyone, I recommend having a look if you've never looked at what Dr. Shrunk is based on.
So that's another good reason to like Dr. Shrunk. He's unique, I think.
He is unique because he's critically endangered, apparently. Possibly extinct in the wild. I don't know.
It's almost another layer to the jokes.
Well, I hope he gets back with his wife so they can breed. Otherwise, at the end of the species.
Dr. Shrunk there. His jokes might not be great, but he's only trying his best and he means well. That's true of the characters and villagers you can meet in Animal Crossing, with a few notable exceptions. Earlier we heard about the apparent rivalry between the otters Pascal and Lyle, Pascal claiming that Lyle is untrustworthy. Well, he might have a point. You see, back in Wild World, Lyle worked as an insurance salesman. He'd sell you insurance against misfortune. You know, getting stung by a bee, tripping down a pitfall, or falling victim to fraud. What? Fraud? That's right. There's one character who will actively try and rip you off. I'm talking, of course, about Crazy Red. Crazy Red is a dodgy dealer who appears on the fringes of the Animal Crossing series to sell you hard-to-find items, like works of art for the museum. In New Leaf, his tent appears in your town on a random day each week. You can then buy one precious work of art from him, which arrives in the post the next day. Unfortunately, it isn't usually the real deal. And that's why Christina describes him as
a charlatan. He's a dodgy, kind of off the back of the lorry salesman. He's a schemer. He's a trickster. I hate how expensive the works of art are, and I hate how 75% of them are fakes. Who is he hanging out with that keeps knocking up dodgy Picassos and he touts them around all these towns trying to flog them to fools like chumps like me? Oh man, I hate him so much, and I've wasted so many bells on that doofus. And I really want a really good art collection. It's the only room in my museum where I see villagers in there and they're like, yeah, this needs to get better. It's not good here. And it's like, And then when Wolfgang was living in my town, he said that he'd spotted Crazy Red down the train station or something. He's like, oh yeah, this Crazy Red guy sold me a painting. Do you want to buy it? And I was like, oh, cool, I'll buy a painting off Wolfgang. Maybe it won't be absolute, scammy nonsense. But it was fake as well. So not only had been selling crappy stuff to me, it'd been duping my villagers as well.
Or Wolfgang was in on it and he's just trying to palm it off on you in a different way. Red might have connections all over the town.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Have you ever managed to successfully scrutinise a bit of art and figure out whether or not it's a fake or not, or is it always pure chance?
It started out as pure chance until I got so angry that each time I was wasting all of this money. And I was like, he only turns up once a week as well. So it's hard to be so hit and miss with it. It's not like you can just kind of pop back to see Timmy and Tommy and buy something else. It's like you've got to wait. It's like full weeks between all this stuff, and then you might not be around, and maybe it's a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. So it was this really protracted and infuriating process. So I'd spent loads of money and always had fakes, and then I think I just went on a forum and read about how to tell if they're fake or not on different, and then I used that because it was making me so bad. So that's the only time I've ever used a game guide on Animal Crossing, because I was so angry because I hate him so much.
I don't blame you. I think if you were really familiar with every bit of artwork that he's got, really, really intimately knew every part of it, then you would be able to detect which ones are fakes. But I've even found looking at the real artwork online and trying to compare it, sometimes I can't tell. It's pretty subtle.
Yeah, they're so close. He's a pedant is what he is, because he's like, no, Michelangelo's David, his right testicle's slightly bigger than his left. Jeez, how didn't you know that? Oh.
He said that to you, has he?
No, Red didn't tell me that because he doesn't give you any clues, does he? He's like,
no,
I'll take your money, but I won't help you. Oh, he's such a dodgy dealer.
It's all high quality goods as far as he's concerned.
Of course it is. High quality, because he can sell it for 4,000 bells. But yeah, I do not like that guy.
I'm a big fan of Red.
Red, you like Red. Some people find Red very creepy.
He's creepy. I don't really understand Japanese fox symbolism. So I know that his design references that because you see it as a trope in so many games and elements of Japanese pop culture. I don't really understand what that kind of stylized fox is meant to represent. I like that there's some kind of malevolence in Animal Crossing. Like, not malevolence, but kind of some kind of negative force. Like, he's trying to swindle you. It's good to have that counterbalance.
Well, Martin, let me tell you what sort of a stylized fox Crazy Red is supposed to be. Crazy Red is a kitsune, which means fox in Japanese. But specifically, in English, kitsune refers to the mythical trickster foxes of Japanese folklore. And by the way, small-town capitalist Tom Nook, in some respects Crazy Red's rival, isn't any old raccoon but a tanuki, another mischievous creature from Japanese folklore. What's all this got to do with Lyle? Well, in Wild World, Lyle didn't just sell you insurance. You get a pitiful payout if you were sold a dud painting. Each week, while pushing you to buy insurance, he'd also ask you what day you want Red to visit the town. When questioned, Lyle would just say he knows Red from around. Highly suspicious. Geez, what a world. Let's think about something more wholesome with Timothy.
Has there ever been any, interspecies dating in Animal Crossing? I would love it if the animals could get off with each other. You know, if I could come back and find that, I don't know, Rizzo the ninja mouse is now knocking boots with Gigi the snooty princess. I would love it.
I mean, they do have arguments and stuff, don't they? So it's like the flip side of the same coin in terms of relationships. But you did say earlier that you don't want to bring dating into Animal Crossing.
Well, no, I don't want them to ask about my life. Yeah, that's secret. But if I can hear some hot goss about...
That's true. Well, I'm sure that they do hint at relationships between characters in gossip, but they don't ever...
Be explicit about it.
And they'd say, they seem to be very close. They would never go any
wink,
further than
wink,
that. Yeah.
aubergine emoji.
Exactly.
Fine.
Yeah. Wholesome. Like I was saying earlier, you never know which villagers you might end up with. And there's a surprisingly large number of them.
What are the animal types? There's mouse, frog, hippo, wolf, bird.
Yeah.
But maybe I'd like one more kind of bird. Maybe. Or just something a bit cuter.
They've got some really obscure ones. I think I always assume that the types of villagers will be domesticated or cute animals, but they don't. They've got, crocodiles and much weirder things than you might expect.
Pumpkin face.
So we've got squirrel, pig, gorilla, alligator, koala, eagle, anteater, bird, bull, mouse, cat, horse, hamster, kangaroo, penguin, chicken.
Oh, wow, it's actually
elephant,
a lot more than I realised.
Sheep, deer, tiger, cub,
gazelle,
hippo. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yeah, there's
duckling, a
ostrich,
little duckling,
rabbit.
Oh, I don't remember
gorilla.
Any of these.
Yeah, there's way more than I realised as well.
I like that they'll have birthdays.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gonna have a birthday.
Oh my goodness, Biscuit the dog. That I remember Biscuit. Biscuit was one of mine.
Biscuit's gone now.
Oh. What was Biscuit's deal?
Biscuit was lazy. His catchphrase was dog. He looked cute. He has a laid-back lifestyle. His main hobbies will involve food and napping, and will often talk about this to the player. He will sometimes talk about his dream to be a superhero, and sometimes portrays himself as one called Fashion Lad.
Oh, Fashion Lad.
I don't think it's very fashionable. Come on.
Hey, you don't poop on Biscuit's dreams.
He doesn't seem to be wearing any trousers.
He doesn't need to. Right. That's his superpower.
So we know Timothy is a big fan of Biscuit the dog. But what about our other guest mayors? There's a name on the streets of Asstown that turns heads. The ladies want to be with him, and the men, they also want to be with him. That name is Barold.
I definitely have a favourite villager. It's just Barold.
It's Barold.
Barold is the cutest little grey bear with a 5 o'clock shadow. So I really like sending letters to my villagers, but only so that I can unlock their little villager portrait to put in my house. With Barold, it's a whole new level. I just see a little life for him, And so, you know, when he first comes to your town, he wears a yellow and black kind of animal skin, like tunic thing. I just don't think that's his style. And then I think I went into his house and discovered that it's kitted out like a little office. And I thought, I just know what I need to give him. And so every time I see in the shops like something that's kind of officey related, I buy it and I send it to him in the post. So I think his house has got a server rack, it's got a laptop, it's got a water cooler, it's got a printer, a little working desk, and I sent him what I think of is his like natural outfit of a little V-neck pullover with a shirt. He's just the perfect little character, and he likes snacks. I like snacks. I just like that he's like a everyday bear, and I think that's also why I like Lyle, especially when he was an insurance salesman. He's also just like a little office guy.
Salaryman.
Yeah, little salaryman. I think that's my favourite type of animal. Little salarymen animals.
As for Martin, he's more a fan of Rold.
It's Rold.
It's Rold.
I love penguins. And this guy's a full-on penguin. You know, he's got a happy kind of out there personality type. You know, he's not going to take any nonsense from anybody. But at the same time, he's very happy and a friend loved to have him around. He's a little ball of loveliness. And one of my favourite Marios is the penguin suit. And he's like a living representation of that kind of like chubby, lovely penguin with a checkered shirt.
He says, his picture quote is, "I'm not waddling, I'm working on my glutes."
That's right. He loves fitness. I see him as a role model. As a short round thing, I like to know, yeah, you can get motivated to go to the gym and work on your glutes. I'm not even sure if penguins have glutes. Does this mean that in the character design world of Animal Crossing, underneath the clothes, there he has little penguin glutes?
If they're following through, presumably.
Maybe penguins do have butt cheeks because they lay eggs. Do chickens have bum cheeks?
I've never looked. I mean, they don't sit down.
Well, you've done all this research about pigeon milk.
Yeah.
Might be the time.
I'll just Google it now.
Yeah, Rold.
He's your Rold model.
He's my Rold model.
Sadly, not every villager can be a biscuit, a Barold, or a Rold. Or a biscuit Barold. In fact, some villagers can only be described as our guest mayor's least favourite villagers, especially when I specifically asked them to tell me about their least favourite villagers.
I've already forgotten her name, but it's that bloody horse. I can't remember her name. I showed her to you. I think I blocked it out, but she's sort of like a chestnut brown and she's wearing like a purpley blue shirt and she says nip nip at the end of everything and it's really passive aggressive and I really, I've got no time for her.
She was the one that you were just pushing rather than talking to.
She's a plot hog. She took a plot of land I had something nice planned for, wouldn't leave. It's like that kind of neighbour who would build a fence and you're like, you can't build that fence. They go, well, it's my fence. It's my land. No, it's not. It's my land. It's my fence.
It's my town. I'm the mayor.
Exactly. It's rude. Just a really nasty, rude horse.
Yeah. Still around.
Won't leave my street. Because she knows.
Haunting your town space or your city space.
The kind of person who takes pleasure in seeing other people unhappy.
Can you just do a quick search for purple frogs on Animal Crossing? I'm sure there was a purple frog that moved into my town and everyone hated her.
Diva or Gigi?
Oh,
I remember
Gigi!
Gigi. Oh, Gigi, yeah.
Yes, of course. She was such an awful person.
Gigi is a purple frog with a blonde haircut.
Yes. She had such an attitude.
She wears heavy seafoam eyeshadow and red lipstick.
Well, that's fine. You know, you do you.
She has a snooty personality, which means she loves makeup and gossiping. As a snooty villager, Gigi will appear rude and arrogant towards the player, often talking about herself and her own experiences.
Yes, she was. She really rubbed me up the wrong way. I'm glad she left.
Can you remember what the other characters used to say about her?
No, probably just not nice things. You know what, though? I imagine Tangy, for example, probably just would have been like, that Gigi, as you know, she just needs to follow her own truth and all that, and then we probably just hung out and went fishing. I don't know.
Well, Shrinky, you must not take this lightly, or have you forgotten your infidelities with Bunny?
Who's Bunny?
Bunny the little brown rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Who was having some salacious conversations with you that you've saved into your memories forever on Flickr.
When we shared a town on Let's Go to the City on the Wii.
Yeah, I went on holiday to see my family in Hong Kong And what were you doing with Bunny?
Having innocent conversations.
Well, were they that innocently, David? Should we bring up the evidence?
I suppose so.
So, let's have a look at some of these screenshots that you took. Bunny is saying, but I don't know. There's something about that dorky, sweaty thing that I kind of like, when talking to Shrinky. What are some of these other ones? Shrinky, when you give me compliments like that, it makes me all confidence. Thanks, Huh? Who are you giving compliments to, David?
Just supporting my townsfolk.
I keep a list of everyone I like, and right now you're at the top. Why would she like you so much?
Because I'm a popular guy with an eye patch, apparently, in winter.
You were awesome. You're going to have so many fans once I spread the word. What's she going to spread the word about, David?
How a great conversationalist I am.
I feel like I've been ravaged by the egg hole ninja or something. You're really good, Shrinky. Now, what's that all about? You can't deny that something dodgy's going on there.
I genuinely can't remember what that was about. I have no memory of this conversation.
Well, that's why I don't like Bunny.
I'm sure I've just been doing hide and seek, probably. It's all been misconstrued.
Well, doesn't seem like I have got it that wrong. Having all these encounters with Bunny.
There's pictures of you in this album as well. There's you having an altercation with Bunny.
Oh yeah, she really doesn't like me. She's saying, "Grr, keep a distance of at least 300 feet. I mean it,
I wonder what you'd been doing.
Well, probably confronting her about what kind of encounter she's been having with Mayor Shrinky. Here's another bit of incriminating evidence with Bunny. Idea time, so you're not, planning to meet Shrinky anytime soon, are you? Well, I am. He's my boyfriend.
It might have just been I've been delivering a present.
Well, I don't like Bunny.
Town, like any other village in Animal Crossing, would be nothing without its residents. To illustrate this, let's try a thought experiment. Take a moment to imagine London or any big city.
Hey, you're a real piece of work, you know that, pal? What are you trying to do to me here? Did you think you could just restart the episode and maybe it would be magically more interesting? Well, podcasts don't work like that, punk. Oh, I wish they did. I wish they did, then I wouldn't have to sit around listening to this crap all day long in case one of you try resetting. I ain't got time for this. You know any punks are skipping the ads on podcasts? Skipping the preamble, skipping to the juicy stuff, the celebrity guests. Oh, you want mattress companies to go out of business? You want to go to shops to buy stamps? You want to build a website without a 10% discount? Is that what you want? Not on my watch. You gotta stick with it. Maybe this podcast will get better, maybe it won't. I don't care. That ain't my problem, kid. Just don't touch that dial. I don't want to see you again. You got me now. Scram.
Before we get started, I'm afraid to say there's a bit of a rumour going round.
Oh no.
This particular podcast. Apparently you're a bit of a broke joker. Can you respond, comment, or confirm if this is true?
I heard that you're a bit of a green thumb.
What? In that case, let's call it quits and bury that information.
Yeah, bury it in the time capsules of our hearts.
From High Score Club, I'm your mayor, David Thayer, and this is Time Capsule, a part of the show where we visit the lost town of one of our guest mayors. In this episode, it's Christenna.
Christenna, I believe you haven't been back to your town for a while. Would you mind me taking a look? Would you mind showing me around and see what's been happening since you left?
It's with great trepidation that I allow this to happen. I'm frightened of going back. I'm frightened of what I've lost. I'm frightened of what's changed. But yeah, let's do it. Oh, Anka's still there. She's on the opening screen. Okay. Oh my god. Preparing my town. This is when the brain in my Animal Crossing cartridge decides how ruthlessly to slay my brethren.
So what's your town called?
My town is called Chuk Chuk.
Nice. What's that a reference to?
It's a nonsense word that me and my husband say to each other. So it's because it's the cutest thing in the world, and Greg says that Animal Crossing is like the inside of my head. It's me being babied. And I'm called Pomble. I'm Mayor Pomble of Chuk Chuk.
Wow.
And Pomble is another nonsense word. We call each other Pom. So I was like, I'm Pomble. I'm also Pomble in all the Zelda games, and it's like my name in everything. Oh, Barold is still here. Barold's still here. There's someone called Rocket, who I don't think I've met before. And Derwin's still here. I wanted him to go. Oh, I've lost Frita. No, I've lost Vesta. Frita's still here. I've still got Anchor. I've still got Peck. And Winnie and Barold. They're my top 4. All my favourites are still here. It's okay. So I've got a letter from Gulliver. Oh, I helped him get to Russia last time I played. So I've got a present from him. Open. It's a piece of furniture. A Matryoshka! Amazing. Good times. I'll pop that up in my house. Oh, and one from Vesta. Moving day has arrived. I'm a little nervous. Oh, and she gave me a picture because we were best friends.
Have you had any other pictures?
Yes, I've got quite a few. I've got pictures of people that I let leave. I'd never really controlled villagers coming in or going out. And I'd always told them to stay because I was like, don't leave. Because I'm a creature of pure emotion in this idyllic paradise.
So what public works have you got? Have you got things like the cafe?
I've got the cafe. I love Brewster. I love working for Brewster. And how are you supposed to know what coffees to make everybody? It's a parade of disappointment.
You have to disappoint everyone in order to learn what they want.
It's true. It's everything's in for the long game on Animal Crossing. But yes, I've got that. I've got the police station. I went for the old guy. Yeah.
I've never managed to get it. I've always wanted that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think it was just... oh, man, I think there's a bug there that I've not caught before. Oh, my God, is it a cicada? I'm just going to try and... Yes, I just added something to my encyclopedia for the first time in about 6 months. How exciting. Oh, brilliant. So I think somebody recommended the police station. I think someone has to suggest it. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
So I think a good soul had done that and I'd got it installed. And I think you can either choose from the new kind of young hench kind of dog or the fat, pudgy, sleepy dog. So I went for the sleepy dog. The fairy tale clock got completed, so I left it so long that the villagers putting in 3 bells at a time actually got the last public works project off the ground.
Wow, that's the dream.
That is the dream.
I didn't think they really contribute anything.
They do. They have little bits. So I would always do it in like thousands of bells that I made my fortunes on the island with selling beetles. So I'd just like pile loads of money into like bridges and stuff. If I'd not played it for a while, I'd come back and there'd always just be like a 57 on the end. So it wouldn't all be 0. So I'd be like, oh, someone's chipping in a measly contribution. Thanks very much, Barold. But they do chip in a little bit. But yeah, I think when you've left it a while, it just takes months for it to get made. So... But it does. On the main street, I've got the TNT Mart up to, like this, so it's 3-story with Gracie at the top selling items that are too expensive for any self-respecting villager to buy. And I think you get that by doing like Gracie's fashion check. She like turns up on the town square every day for a week. And you have to like impress her by putting outfits together. There's a couple things that I don't have on the main street. So I think if you talk to Katrina, you know that badass like cat that turns up in a tent.
Yeah, the fortune teller.
Yeah. So if you talk to her enough or have your fortune read enough times, she'll open up a permanent shop on Main Street.
I think that's the only one I don't have.
Yeah, so I don't have her. Yeah, but I've got the double-story museum. I've got the Dream Suite with Luna. Is it Club LOL or Club 101? I never know what to call it.
I have to assume LOL because he likes to do the comedy during the day.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And it's not just a basement where everyone puts their least favourite things. Gyroids. There's Digby there. Oh, it's TNT Emporium when you've like busted out everything on the big 3-story map. And then I've got the Shampoodle above the Able Sisters, and I've got Kicks on the end for shoes and socks. So I think the only thing that I just figured out before I stopped playing was when you like chop down trees, they have like secret stumps. Have you noticed those?
Yeah, there are different shapes in the stumps, and then I think some of them will attract mushrooms and some of them will, I can't remember what they do.
I think some
Yeah.
attract like bugs and stuff on the island as well. Like,
That's right, yeah.
But I never quite figured it out. I just started doing it, so I really, really, really want a Triforce one. I think that's one of the rare ones, but I've got a couple. So I've got like the citrus shaped one, and there's another one over yonder. I'll just try and find.
So you're just chopping down random trees and you're not deforesting your village.
I did deforest my village for a while, yeah. But I would plant trees and chop trees down. But then when you chop too many trees down, like I chopped loads of peach trees down because my town's special fruit is a peach. So all the trees that I planted first were peach trees, and then I got other fruits and stuff. And I think I've got the full fruit collection now. Like for ages, my mayor town card just said my kingdom for a persimmon because I'd spent about like 3 months trying to find where do you get the persimmons. But then I found it's like Leaf sells them when you like update to the final Emporium Timmy and Tommy kind of shop. I had so many peach trees that I just chopped all of those down because I had an excess of those. I'd plant trees in threes, so I'd have like 3 apple trees because then you can put all the fruits into a basket of 9 in your pockets. It was very orderly.
Wow, that is super organised.
Yeah, back in the day it was very orderly. Now it's just regrets. It's a town of regrets. No, it's all right. And I've only ever managed to get perfect fruit once. I've got a few perfect peach trees and that's it.
Oh, I've never managed to do that. It takes dedication to nurture them effectively enough.
Yeah, and I don't know what I'd done to get it. I just noticed that there was a peach that was like orange instead of pink. And I think it said perfect peach rather than just regular peach. And I was like, oh, what do I do? Freak out. And then I planted one. And then it was all perfect peaches, which was great. I think you can give them to villagers if you have like a favourite villager. And you know when like villagers ask you for fruit for like a side quest. If you bring back perfect fruit, they like lose their minds and think you're the best person in the world. And sometimes they send you things in the post because they really like you.
Wow, so did you do that for Barold?
Oh, I do everything for Barold.
It's Barold.
Yeah, Barold loves his snacks as well. So Barold's my favourite villager. And he was like your onboarding villager set in my town from the very start. And he is hands down the best. I don't know what he is, but he's like a little bear or something. He's so good. His house is full of like printers and internet servers and lots of weird tech.
It feels like he works in IT, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. He's a little IT boffin.
Do you think you can track him down? Go and say hi.
Yes, I've seen him wandering about. I walked past him because I haven't talked to him for a while. It was a bit awkward. Have you ever used the megaphone thing?
Yeah, I do that quite a lot.
I bought one, but I've never used it. Like I didn't get what it was for. And now, it's when you want to find a villager in your town, you kind of... Does it point you in the right direction?
Yeah, it does. Well, you say the name and they say, over here.
Oh, and you can kind of see on the screen where they're at.
Yeah, which direction they're in.
I'm going to do a quick round. Okay, I'm going to go home and get the megaphone. I'm going to use the megaphone for the first time.
Just be glad you're not on public transport while you're doing it.
This is true. Oh, Isabelle's in the courtyard. What are you doing over there, girl? She's got it all under control. And she's getting ready for the fireworks show. Fireworks with original designs created by the townsfolk? Holy smokes. Whoa, you can submit custom designs and they'll appear as fireworks. Oh, Crazy Red. Oh, I hate him.
Is it your inclination for these kinds of things to submit something cute or something rude?
I've never really been rude to people before. I have a lot of respect for this game. So yeah, like a little, there's a cockroach in my house. This is gross. What does it mean? I'm genuinely distressed. I'm sorry that just happened. But yeah, I don't think I've ever really submitted anything rude. I've submitted things that are like franchise related stuff, I guess, of other Nintendo games or kind of pop culture that I like. So I'll make clothes that have characters on that I like or a Triforce on, but never like anything super rude. Have you?
I don't know why you'd suggest that.
It's all bus stop knobs around your house, isn't it?
I wouldn't submit any rude pictures, but pretty much all of the language is innuendo in most of my towns.
Okay, so I guess maybe it is rude. I got into Drag Race a few years ago, so I started teaching all of my characters to say like Drag Race slogans. So they'd say stuff that kind of gay men wearing wigs and being filthy would say. So I'm sure there's some with an innuendo. Sorry, I'm going to go try and find Barold now. I've taken us on a massive detour.
He can't get far.
It's true, he's got tiny legs. Barold, my best friend. So what's your town called? Am I allowed to ask you questions about your town?
Of course, if you like to. It's called Dave's End. Because it's innuendo. So everyone says, welcome to Dave's End. And I can say, come and join me in Dave's End, etc.
Oh dear. It is enjoyable. I might burn it all down and start again and just call it like, I don't know, the Love Abyss or something. I found Barold.
It's Barold.
Okay, let's talk to him. Is that you, Captain? I haven't seen you for so long, I almost forgot what you look like. Oh, I can be such a space cadet sometimes, so don't be such a stranger, okay? Oh my God, Barold!
He's blaming himself.
I know, he's such a creature of, empathy and understanding. I'm going to talk to him again. Okay, he said 2 catchphrases that I forgot I taught him. One is, his greeting is, somnambulist. And then his catchphrase is, what's up now, Garibaldi? So these are 2 nonsense words. I'm just going to tell him I'm bored. Do I have any weird things I like? He does. One thing he likes is old money. They're just coins, but I can really feel the history locked inside them. It's so cool, Garibaldi. Aww, Barold, you make my heart burst.
He's such a classic nerd.
He is. He's such a beautiful boy.
Do you have a most hated villager?
I had a really weird... When I started, allowing villagers to leave... Not that this is some is it Wayward Pines, that lockdown village series? It's not like some place that people aren't allowed to leave. It's not like the Thunderdome or whatever. But when I started curating people, so when people suggested they leave, I'd be like, okay, well, I guess if you leave, then I might get someone new, or I can invite someone from the campsite to come and visit. So I started thinking about who was my favourite or not. And this was when the dark cloud came over Animal Crossing for me, when I had to kind of appropriate who was my favourite and who wasn't. I started on this big vendetta. The situation was I had Vesta, who was one of my first villagers, who's kind of all right. She doesn't really do anything, but she was there from the start of my village, so I really liked her. And then someone who came along later called Frita, and they're both sheep. When they just kind of reskin the same character.
Well, they're the same species. They're very different characters.
Yeah, but I had 2 sheep in my village. So I was like, well, I'll get, for variety, I'll get rid of one of them. So I was loyal to Vesta because she'd been there from the start, but I'd kept waiting for Frita to tell me that she would go. But she's is it an Uchi villager? The ones who will never tell you that they're going to leave. They'll, you just have to ignore them, and then they leave without telling you, and you just get a letter through the mail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if there's ever anybody that you've been waiting to get rid of and talking to them loads, then if they're that personality type of villager, they won't go. So I spent months trying to get rid of Frita so that I'd only have 1 sheep in my village, and I could get I really wanted one of the little squirrely guys. I'd never had one of those stay. So I've been doing that for ages, and then I kept talking to Frita, and then the one time that she did say she wanted to leave, I was like, no, I've talked to you loads now, I really like you. And she's really weird, and she was more interesting than Vesta, so now I'm glad that Vesta's gone and Frita's stayed, so Frita's still in my village now that I've just logged back on. The moment when she was like, I'm going to be leaving today, and I think you get one last chance on the very day that they're going to leave to get them to stay, or you get to send them a letter, I can't remember. I just looked at her and I was like, you're a sheep, but your body's made out of French fries and your head is a burger. Why am I letting you leave? You can't leave. Frita, stay. Vesta's the one that's got to go. She just likes sewing machines and stuff. There's nothing that special about her. It was a real saga.
It never really occurred to me that I should try and get rid of 2 animals of the same type.
Yeah, I don't
interesting.
know why. There's not much about this game that I dislike or hate or anything like that, because it's Paradise Island, founded deeply in capitalism, which is great. It was those little niggly things. I was like, well, I guess if I'm going to start making changes or having a bit more of a role to play, because I just kind of like let stuff happen. I'm so pleased at how little stuff has changed. It's been on my mind that I should play Animal Crossing again. And I've not really had time. Like, I used to play it a lot when I was like working as a lecturer. It was a really kind of high stress, high intense job. I'd play it loads after work, or like take it with me and play it on my lunch breaks and stuff, because it is like escape. But I've since like left that job, and it's since then that I've been too busy to play it, and now the anxiety is on my part of like how much I've neglected these beautiful people.
A Zen bell. An everyday bear. All the fruits of the forest. And a beautifully curated house of curiosities that's worth the trip in itself. You too can visit the lost town of Chuk Chuk by using your Dream Suite. Just go to highscoreclub.com and click on Ass Town to find Kristenna's dream address in the show notes for episode 2. You'll also find a link to Kristenna's website where you can see her amazing illustrations, including some familiar faces from Animal Crossing. Before I go, let's open the mailbag. Oh my god, I've had some letters. You'd think I would have noticed these when I was printing them all out. Huge thanks to everyone who's contacted the show so far to tell us about your favourite villagers. The letters will be included on the page for this episode, so check out highscoreclub.com to read them all. Now, here are just a couple. Luke Summerhaze says, my favourite villager, by some margin, was Kid Cat. There were a few others who amused me, or who I liked the company of, but when they left, I could live with it as long as Casey remained in my village. Kid Cat was a fitness and sports freak, dressed like a superhero. He was at once absent-minded and energetic, with endlessly quotable lines about his abs and his hyperactive routines. This polygonal cat and his few lines of code felt like a real friend and a positive influence. I genuinely felt like getting up and exercising more thanks to this cat. On occasion, even Kid Cat would talk about leaving. Whenever he did, I'd say I wanted him to stay, and he'd seem happy to have a friend who cared so much and change his mind. Eventually, I'd known him long enough, he had no new dialogue for me. I'd visit him every day, and he'd share the same observations, stories and gags. He was staying for me, and it was killing him. Eventually, I realised that the same thing was happening to me, staying in the town where I grew up. Kid Cat is probably the most inspirational friend I've ever had. Thanks for your touching letter, Luke. Unfortunately, I have to say it's made me feel a bit glum. Maybe the next letter will be more cheerful. This one comes from Rory Steele. It's quite a long letter, so I've cut it down. You can read the full thing on the website. Here's an excerpt. My favourite villager was always Tutu. She was the peppy polar bear, and we got along famously. Every time I designed a t-shirt, she would always wear it. She'd always drop by for a catch-up and a hangout. And it was why I was distraught when I dropped by her house one day to find her possessions packed up, boxes ready to depart for pastures new. It was the saddest goodbye for any villager before or since. But I managed to take a picture of us together before she left, and Rory's included a link to see the picture on his SoundCloud. He continues, seeing someone move out of your village is one thing, but Animal Crossing tends to mine that melancholy further. You may be walking around the city or the high street and suddenly bump into a familiar face, an ex-villager. You would chat, exchange a few pleasantries, but something was off. They were not the villager they once were. They don't seem to remember your nickname, the gifts you gave, the letters you sent. It's like as soon as they moved away, their memories, the times you shared, the fun you had, disappeared with them. It's somehow worse than never seeing them again. At least Animal Crossing knows good sense that for every sad moment of a villager departing, there's always the excitement when a new sign goes up and a square is cordoned off, announcing a fresh arrival. Unless, of course, their new abode just so happens to be in the middle of a carefully constructed path or a meticulously maintained flower arrangement. That wasn't more cheerful at all! Thanks again to everyone who sent in a letter for this episode. You can read all the letters in the show notes, Go to highscoreclub.com, click on Asstown, and choose episode 2. And if you want to tell us about your favourite villager or character, it isn't too late. You can always leave it as a comment in the listener mail section of the page. In the next episode of Asstown, we will consider the mysteries of Animal Crossing. What rumours have you heard but never verified? What weird tricks did you read about on a forum? Send us your theories and queries. Tweet at highscoreclub or email asstown@highscoreclub.com. That's it for this episode. I'm off now to work on my American accent. Asstown is produced by me, David Fair, for High Score Club. Music for the Asstown theme song, Mayor in an Empty Town, is composed and performed by Christopher Alcock, courtesy of the band Tough Choices. Huge thanks to my guest mayors Charlie Jameson, Ed White, Ho Yi Lee, Christina Paczynski, Martin Steenton and Timothy Winchester. To find out more about these wonderful mayors, please visit highscoreclub.com. High Score Club is a little video game club for good games and equally good people. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr and Twitch. Pro tip, that's high spelt H-I. Thanks to Ithaca Audio for the news theme, and the generous creators at freesound.org for their royalty-free sound effects. Asstown isn't even slightly affiliated with Nintendo.
Public works are still on